Hello. Hey, welcome back to AWS OnAir. It's our first segment of the day today on Friday. We've got Zach and we've got Anand. Zach, why don't you start? Introduce yourself. What do you do here at AWS? And then we'll go to Anand.
Yeah, Zach Elliott. I'm a senior location specialist SA here at AWS. I've been here almost 5 years. And I am, if we're speaking about the Midwest, I'm from Kansas City. So,
That's real Midwest.
Deep
in
the hard Midwest. We're talking about sports fans. We got the Chiefs here. We got some, talk about Friday and might go hit up some barbecue later. So if you notice a little bit of Kansas City flair in the demo, you'll understand why.
They say all railroads go through Kansas City. Wait, no, that's not a saying. Something about that. Facts goes.
Yeah.
And Anand, how about you? Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do.
Hey, folks. Anand Vijayan. I'm a senior product manager with the Amazon Location Service team. I'm based in Austin, Texas, so I'm a little undecided on where that exactly classifies as, but call it the South, call it anything. But yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk about Amazon Location Service and some cool new stuff we launched recently.
Cool. Hey, Anand, so for folks who aren't familiar with Amazon Location Services, why don't you get a high-level view? What are we talking about? What's the service we're operating in here?
Yeah, totally. I'm going to bring up my screen here and share a couple of things, and what better way than just go dive into the console directly.
Yeah.
So Amazon Location Service, it's a service that's been around a couple of years now. And mainly, as it says here, it helps customers add location data into their applications. So effectively, what that means is it lets customers do these 5 things. So it can range anywhere from, hey, I have a bunch of data, I want to spatially represent it on a map, or I want to search for point of interest or addresses based on a set of addresses or geocoding information that I might have. Then there's also route calculation, where I can do things like find me the best way to go from point A to point B, and do that on a truck where there's a certain height barrier I need to care about or a weight restriction I need to care about. So we have a lot of logistics and delivery customers that use that for. And then there's tracking and geofencing, which is probably what the meat of what we are going to cover today, where there's the ability to create geofences and associate trackers to them, where we can say things like, if there's a predefined area, let's trigger some workflows based on what movements we see there. So I'm happy to talk about some of the new releases, but it might make sense to just talk through what Amazon Location Service covers overall. So customers have access to this today, where when you have access to the AWS console, you get to go through this interactive utility called the Explorer. And over there, customers can do a bunch of things like look at a number of skins with map tiles and visualizations. There's also the ability to search for places. So it suggests a bunch of places, like I've just searched for something here. There's routing, as I mentioned, but I'm going to hone in on geofencing and tracking specifically. So as an example, customers can define geofences as polygons or as circles. So in this case, I'll just show something very, very quick just to kind of demonstrate what it does. So I can click on a point here, draw a geofence, and what it does is it auto-generates code, but it allowed me to create a geofence with a 151-meter radius here. And against that geofence, I can do things like track a moving location. So it can be something like a moving mobile device or an IoT device, or anything that really has the ability to beacon location over, can be orchestrated using a geofence architecture. So in this case, what I'm going to do real quick is simulate this movement of a truck. So I'm going to click through here, and as the truck is moving, it represents it over here. But when I enter the geofence, it triggers a geofence event, where what the service is really doing under the hood is it is talking to AWS Event Bridge, which is an event bus service. And that can then talk to things like analytics workflows or notifications and things like that. So this is kind of where customers use it for things like the ride share experience, where your ride is approaching or your order is approaching, that sort of thing. Same thing from an exit perspective, where customers can really orchestrate a certain workflow to trigger when there's entry and exit events that happen. I want to talk about what specifically we launched recently, but I want to just pause there. Just wanted to demonstrate that at a high level.
Yeah, no, I liked how you talked about entry and exit because I think most people, when they hear the term geofence, at least I do, I think of we're setting a boundary and we don't want something to leave, or we want to be, an alarm when something leaves. And so any drone pilots out there, you will set up a geofence to make sure my drone doesn't fly away. But it is interesting to think, well, that can have a lot of usage for being notified when something comes into a geofence. So yeah, I appreciated that explanation.
Yeah, and I kind of want to hear from our audience as well. Have you used locations or Amazon location services? Is this something that would maybe be applicable to something you're working on? One of the things I really love about Amazon location services is all of its deep integration into some of the other services that we use at AWS, and the SDKs that are provided for Amazon location services. I was a former developer. Oftentimes, I'd have customers want to map something. And that used to be really hard to do. I don't want to date myself too much, but now I've used some of the more recent SDKs for Amazon location services, and it's really simple. And being able to change the style of the map and track different assets and define geofences and parameters. So that's one of the things I really like about this service. But on what else can folks do with this before we get into the specific focus of this demo?
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to what Jeff mentioned earlier, one of the common use cases for that exit event is where customers want to know where, let's say, expensive pieces of equipment are. So a common use case is where in the mining space, each heavy machinery, equipment, or vehicle can be fitted with a simple IoT device, which can then beacon out its location. And the moment that location shows that it is exiting a given area, there can be a notification triggered through Amazon simple notification service or things of that nature. So customers use it for all kinds of stuff. But this is where I want to go back to talking about a couple of additional capabilities we launched recently. And the meat of what we wanted to cover today was really the enhanced location integrity set of features, where customers have been doing this for a while, where what you're looking at is the ability to do enter and exit events where when something happens, you have the ability to trigger a workflow. But then what customers told us about a year or so ago is they want additional control and flexibility, where they want the ability to say things like, I want to anticipate the movement of this asset or this vehicle in my fleet and trigger actions based on that anticipated movement. So things like, I want to know when this particular geofence will be breached or when something is about to enter or exit a geofence. And that's one piece. The other piece that customers said is, I want to know at the high degree of authenticity whether a location that is advertised is real or not. So there's a lot of potential for location-based fraud, or the potential for someone using a VPN and claiming to be somewhere else, gathering coupons that are only accessible in a certain location. So customers want to be able to detect and deter location-based fraud. So to address that, we launched this enhanced location integrity suite of features, which really breaks down into two things. One is the ability to do what's called forecasting geofence events, where in addition to triggering entry and exit, customers can now forecast a geofence event where they can specify a speed and a time horizon and say, I have a moving asset that is moving at a particular speed. I want to know when this asset is about to reach this particular geofence. And it could be something as, go ahead.
Well, no, I imagine we're going to get into that a little bit into the demo. Right. Why don't we bring Zach's demo up, and then we can start talking, getting deeper into some of the features of it as we see it in action. I think that's a good way to go about it. Sorry to cut you off, and go ahead.
No, just to finish that thought, I mean, we launched a couple of APIs. One was the forecast geofence events. The other was the verified device position, which is really the ability to tell whether a location is where it claims to be, and the ability to anticipate. And we're going to look at Zach's demo where we can demonstrate through that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Anand. So we're going to get into the demo now, and we're going to show both of the API and both the APIs and their functionalities through this demo. So what we've done is we've set up a very simple asset tracking demo. And this demo is going to take advantage of the Forecast Geofence Event API as well as the Verify Device Position API. So first things first is we have to actually define our geofences. We offer a couple of different ways to do this. The first is this map will allow me to simply draw a geofence on the map using a couple points. So now I have a curbside pickup geofence. And then to Todd's point about the APIs earlier, we do have our full suite of SDKs, including the ability to add a geofence programmatically. So we can also add a geofence using the AWS command line or any other AWS APIs and language of your choosing. So if you have a collection of, say, 10,000 stores that you want to create geofences for, you can easily iterate through those and create all those geofences programmatically. You don't have to sit there and draw out a bunch of points on a map for every store. So if I go back to my geofences here, you can now see that we have a geofence around the store. And we also have a geofence around the curbside pickup area. So as it may be a little bit obvious, we are talking about curbside pickup here, but there are other applications outside of retail. One of the other use cases where we see a lot of value with Amazon location service tracking and geofencing is transportation and logistics. We actually have workshops available for asset tracking, using asset tracking devices that could be attached to semi-trailers or trains or anything else that might be moving, and be alerted when those devices enter or exit a geofence. Now with Forecast Geofence Events, we can get even more granular and say, okay, well, I know that this truck or this train is going to be at the depot or the distribution center in 10 minutes. So we need to make sure that we have its shipment ready. So in order to demonstrate the Forecast Geofence events, I'm going to simulate a user journey. And when we talk about a user journey, in this case, it's a user journey of sales, but it's also user journey in the literal sense of we're going to show somebody traveling down the road. So I'm going to simulate a couple different device positions on the map using our API. So let me turn this on here. I should have done that. There we go. So I'm going to simulate a user that is traveling down the road using our API. And so now you see we have a point on the map, and you see we have some information about the geofence proximity. So in this case, we could take this value and say, okay, this user is 7.3 roughly kilometers from our curbside pickup geofence. They might be on their way to pick up their order, or they might not be. Let's keep an eye on this user, and if they start getting closer, then we'll know, hey, they're coming to pick up their order. Let's go ahead and get it ready. So I'm going to simulate 2 more geofence events, or 2 more location update events, I'm sorry.
So when you say simulate, you're in a Cloud9 environment. You're acting as if that is an IoT device that is actually sending its location data.
Exactly.
But you're doing that manually for the sake of the demo, because we don't
Exactly.
actually have assets out in the field that we're tracking for this demo.
Ideally, this would be a mobile app. You know, pretty much. I mean, I can't tell you how many retail mobile apps I have on my phone for various stores. You know, and that is ideally what's going to be tracking my location. So ideally, that app is going to be sending these updates to the back end of the store's infrastructure to then tell the retailer, hey, this person is on their way. So in this case, we're now 0.072 kilometers. We're pulling in the parking lot. And so now that store can say, look, this person's in the parking lot. We need to have their order at the door ready because they are effectively here. And for this last location update, I want you to watch the top right of the screen of this map right after I enter this, because the user is going to now enter the geofence. So we now sent a notification via Amazon Event Bridge that this user has entered the geofenced area, and they're now here ready to accept their order.
Zach, what a cool feature, not just for the store to be productive and anticipate, but for the customer. I know my experience as I've gone to pick up stuff from stores, it would be great if they knew I was on my way and I didn't have to sit around waiting in a parking lot in the pickup lane saying, okay,
Well,
where's my
exactly.
order?
I'll
So I
take
think
that
it's
another
a
step.
great win.
I'll take that another step. I've ordered food from fast food restaurants that say, all right, come on over and let us know you're here by then having to pick up my phone again in my car and hitting a button saying
all
I'm
the
here.
time.
Yeah.
You
all
shouldn't
the
do
time.
that while you're driving, Jeff. That's just a safety concern.
Yeah, exactly. I can't tell you how many times that I have gone to a location and the food or the item is not ready yet because they just know that I'm there, not that I'm on my way. And this is a great way, even if the user doesn't say they're on their way explicitly, if the app is casually or in the background checking their location, then they can get that and say, okay, well, you're getting closer to the store. We might want to start getting your order ready. Alternatively, something else we need to think about, even if there's not an order in progress, what about geo-marketing? If you enter in a geofence around a store, say you set a geofence that's like, 500 feet or 1,000 feet around a store, if a user enters that geofence or gets close to that geofence, then you could say, hey, here's a 10% coupon, let's bring you in the store. So there's numerous applications for this forecast geofence events API, and we hope to see customers start using it in ways to help their own customers with enhancing the experience through these geofences and through these trackers.
Yeah, Zach, that's really tons of use case, and you really got my kind of creative juices flowing. Now I'm thinking through it, but we only have just a few minutes left in this portion of the segment, so I want to make sure that you get to like everything you want to get to.
Sure.
Do you have anything
Yep.
else for us?
Yeah, I've got one more super quick demo, which is the second piece that Anand talked about, which is the verify device position API. So this allows a retailer or anybody who wants to combat location-based fraud to understand where their customers actually are. So how this works is in this command, and I'm not going to go through every bit of this command, the command sends the location that the device is telling it it's at, which could be false. It could be a GPS app that's emulating. But what it also does is it sends information about Wi-Fi access points as well as LTE networks and IP addresses. So those things that are generally not able to be spoofed, it sends those and then uses IoT core device location in the background to actually resolve a location. So with this, my inferred state, if you notice, there's a deviation distance. That deviation distance is 2,400 kilometers from my real location, because those Wi-Fi access points I provided are from the spheres in Seattle. So I told the app I was in Kansas City, but in reality, I'm in Seattle because my phone is picking up the Wi-Fi signals from Seattle. And so that's what verified device position enables our customers to do, is understand where their customers actually are and say, okay, now that we know that you are 2,400 kilometers from where you're supposed to be, we're going to do something about it. Whether that's not letting them check in to a particular application or not letting them do a particular action, this allows them to trigger that logic in their workflow to understand where their customers actually are and understand if that customer may be spoofing their location for some reason.
Very cool. So and you use the API in the background and to verify device location. It's a way to detect that. Hey, Zach, this is really cool. I just want to wrap up with one question. If customers want to learn more about these new features, where would they go to do that? Do we have code available? Where documentation? Where might they check out first?
Anand, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So we will link a couple of things in the description here, but we have a blog post that covers this exact use case where we've defined the architecture and the code associated with it. We will be publishing sample apps as we go forward, but we'll also link the dev guide where we can get to the forecast geofence events API, and from there, customers can build out that entire workflow. So that would be the place to go.
Cool, very cool. Well, like Jeff mentioned earlier in the show, I just got done completing an IoT device tracking project. So I'm kind of eager to take what I just learned today and go test it out in that application and maybe even help customers more. But Zach, Anand, thank you so much for coming on and showing us the new verified device tracking location services. Thank you.